At the foot of Mount Fuji lies a forest the Japanese call Aokigahara, the Sea of Trees. By daylight, its ancient, lava-carved landscape, thick with roots and caves, absorbs all sound. Every step becomes a small, endless echo of just your own breath and heartbeat. But at night, people say the wind itself behaves differently there. Scientists explain Aokigahara through geology: nutrient-poor, volcanic soil, hollow lava tubes, and uneven terrain that can confuse even the most experienced hikers. But the legends tell a different story, one of ancient spirits, or yare, wandering between the trees. What makes this forest so unique is the powerful combination of both hard science and deep folklore living side by side. But at Est, the human story is carved into its narrow paths that truly define it. Missing persons reports, search markers, and the tragic cases that have shaped Aokigahara's reputation around the world. What you're about to hear is part investigation, part dramatization. Some elements come from documented facts. Others are fictional reconstructions inspired by interviews, witness accounts, and environmental records. We've designed this to help us understand why Aokigahara became a place spoken of only in whispers. A dramatized protagonist is Haruki Sato. She's a real person, but her experiences reflect the sensations and stories frequently reported by real visitors. Haruki was an anthropology student from Tokyo. Fascinated by folklore, she decided to spend 7 days in Aokigahara to observe its environment and gather material for her thesis. She arrived on a clear morning in May, carrying a notebook, a small audio recorder, basic survival tools, and the curiosity of someone who wants to understand mystery without being afraid of it. Her very first observation was the silence. It wasn't just a lack of noise, it was a kind of pressure, a stillness so thick it felt physical. Locals say the lava-covered ground swallows sound, and the trees grow so tightly together they form walls that absorb echoes. In her notebook, Haruki wrote, "Soft soil, vanishing paths, trees packed close, like watchy eyes." On her second day, she interviewed a volunteer who often assisted search teams. He spoke about the signs posted at the trail entrances, messages urging visitors to think of those who care for you and to seek help before making irreversible decisions. Helplines printed on laminated boards stood in stark contrast to the natural quiet. The volunteer said something she recorded word for word. "We come here to bring people back, but it is hard. Sometimes nature closes in. Or maybe it's the mind that decides." Haruki noted the emotional weight in his voice. On the third day, the dramatized part of her experience begins to mirror many real accounts. She followed a marked path on her map, one known to be safe. But at some point, the trail simply narrowed, twisted, and then disappeared between thick walls of trees. The silence changed. It became a faint hum, almost imperceptible, coming from somewhere deep within the forest. Her recorder captured slight fluctuations in the ambient sound, not voices, not animals, just irregular low frequencies. Haruki wrote, "As though the forest is breathing, or someone, somewhere, is breathing with me." Toward evening, she found an improvised campsite, a few ropes, a half-empty water bottle, and a torn note caught between exposed roots. These are the kinds of personal belongings that real search teams occasionally find. The note's content, "I can't anymore," is fictionalized, but it's inspired by what volunteers have reported seeing. Haruki gently collected it and placed it in a protective sleeve, intending to deliver it to a local support center where police and mental health professionals work together to help families and visitors. On her fourth day, Haruki met an elderly forest guardian who had lived near the Fuji foothills his entire life. He explained the cultural weight of Aokigahara. "This forest is a mirror. It reflects what people bring inside. Nature isn't cruel, but people project their shadows onto it." He shared stories of search, attempts that turned into emotional ordeals, of people who returned, changed, unfocused, shaken in ways that words can barely describe. Haruki wrote, "Aokigahara hides and reveals in equal measure." Then came the pivotal night. Haruki ventured onto a quiet, rarely used trail to test the nighttime environmental conditions. Wind, visibility dropped. She heard footsteps, soft ones mirroring her own pace. turned. There was nothing. The low hum grew stronger, pulsing through the soil, through her chest, through the trees. In our dramatized version, Haruki's audio captures faint whispers, fragmented syllables and rustling breaths, but never a complete sentence. This is fictionalized for atmosphere. Real visitors often describe a feeling of being watched, but no scientific evidence supports a supernatural explanation. Still, this dramatization helps illustrate how isolation, silence, and suggestion can reshape our perception. Before we continue, a necessary reminder. Aokigahara is associated with real cases of suicide. We are handling this topic with respect, without graphic detail, romanticization, or if this subject is sensitive for you, please be mindful. And if you are someone you know are struggling, you are not alone. Please seek help immediately. Reach out to a helpline or emergency services in your region. Returning to our story, in our dramatization, Haruki discovers something unsettling: an old cassette tape wedged between some roots. She plays it back later at a local observation post. The recording is warped, but it carries a phrase in Japanese, repeated softly. "They do not let us return." This element is fictional, but it symbolizes the sense of emotional entrapment described by some who came to the forest in distress. As Haruki reaches the final stage of her study, she compiles her interviews, environmental readings, and psychological observations. Her conclusion is twofold. Aokigahara is shaped by its natural hazards, confusing terrain, sound absorption, and geological anomalies, and by the powerful cultural narratives deeply ingrained in Japanese society. These two forces interact, reinforcing the forest's haunting reputation. And before we continue to the final segment of the investigation, let me speak directly to you. If you appreciate documentary-style storytelling that blends history, psychology, and folklore, subscribe to Shadow Histories. Hit the like button, share this video responsibly, and turn on all notifications so you don't miss our next deep investigation. Now, let's return to our final chapter. Haruki joins a nighttime patrol with a real-life search team. Their lanterns carve sharp beams through the dense trees, lighting up fragments of roots and rocks like broken skeletons. They describe the difficulty of working in the forest. GPS signals that fail due to volcanic minerals, map lines that don't match reality, and the emotional challenge of encountering personal belongings left behind. Our dramatization highlights Haruki's anxiety as shadows shift across the forest floor, illustrating the psychological tension that search teams endure during these rescue missions. But the story of this forest does not end in hopelessness. Local communities, volunteers, and organizations are actively working to offer help, prevention, and education. New awareness programs, guided tours focused on environmental preservation, and crisis support stations near the entrances, all aim to shift the narrative away from fear and toward protection and understanding. Haruki closes her fictional diary with a final note. Aokigahara is not evil. Heath is a mirror. We must care for one another more than we fear the shadows. The forest remains a place of unique beauty, geological wonder, and heavy history, but also a place where compassion and awareness can make a real difference. If you want more investigations like this, respectable and deeply researched, don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Histories, leave a like, and share this video thoughtfully. And again, if anything in this story has touched you personally, please reach out for help. Your life matters. Aokigahara continues to stand silent, ancient, and filled with stories. Some call it haunted, others call it sacred. Perhaps it is both, or perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, waiting quietly among the trees.